Beneath your feet, the earth hums. Not loudly, but like a sleeping animal, slow and deep. You begin your descent into the crust, where heat pulses quietly and stone holds memory. This is where volcanoes begin, with breath you cannot hear. The night is still. The world around you has dimmed, quieted, softened into hush. You lie down, your body finding the comfort of stillness, and for a moment, it feels like the earth itself breathes beneath you. You close your eyes and let yourself sink, not just into the bed, but deeper into imagination, into earth, into time. Beneath your skin, your own body pulses with quiet rhythm. Beneath the ground, the planet does the same. Its heartbeat is not like yours, not fast, not fragile. It moves with patience, with heat, with weight. It is the slow breath of stone. Now you are drifting downward, not falling, not tumbling, but easing gently into the crust of the world, layer by layer, like descending into a memory long buried. The first thing you notice is the texture of time. Here in the crust, every grain of rock is a story, compressed, folded, pressed together over millions of years. These aren't just stones, they are moments, the birth of oceans, the rise of mountains, the quiet laying down of ash from eruptions. Long forgotten, you pass through granite, cool and ancient, through basalt, dense and dark, formed from long-cooled lava. Every layer whispers as you pass, telling you how it came to be, telling you how pressure changes everything. You're deeper now, and it's no longer cold. Here, the earth begins to remember its warmth. Not the warmth of the sun, but its own. Inner fire, a heat that comes from within, from the slow decay of radioactive elements, and the residual glow from when the earth was born. This heat doesn't roar or flash. It builds, slowly, like breath held for centuries. It moves through rock, through gaps, through grain. It pools in quiet places. And sometimes, just sometimes, it gathers into something that waits to rise. You are floating now in a place of deep stillness, but beneath that stillness is movement, slow, silent, certain. Imagine magma, not as chaos, but as a kind of thought, a rising idea made of molten rock. It flows because it must, because heat always tries to escape, because the earth is always trying to speak. You pass close to one of these underground rivers. It doesn't look like water, it's heavier, thicker, glowing from within. It curls like honey, moves like breath, and waits like a secret. This is the birthplace of volcanoes. Not at the surface, where fire bursts into air, but here, in this deep forgotten silence, where pressure grows like a whisper pressed too long against stone. But you're not here to witness eruption. You are here to understand the waiting, because volcanoes don't live in minutes. They live in millennia. They are slow creatures, bound not by hours or days, but by pressure and possibility. Sometimes they sleep for 10,000 years, and in that time the world above them changes. Seasons pass, forests grow, cities rise. But below, the volcano dreams, still, watchful, patient. You drift deeper, where even the idea of time seems to stretch, where the weight of the crust presses in from every side. Here, the earth feels like a sleeping animal, warm, dense, powerful, but not dangerous unless disturbed. You place your hand on the rock, and for a moment it feels like it pulses back. A deep, slow rhythm, not quite a heartbeat, but close. This is convection. The mantle's slow churning of molten stone. Hot rock rises. Cooler rock sinks. It moves in circles, in loops, in lazy spirals, like warm currents beneath a still lake. And from this motion comes everything. Tectonic plates shift above because the mantle moves below. Continents drift, oceans widen, and volcanoes form some. At the edges where plates collide, where one slides beneath another, melting rock into magma. Some in the middle of plates, where hot plumes rise like candle flames, burning holes through the crust. You see these places as you pass. A subduction zone beneath the ocean, where rock is melting into fire. A hot spot deep beneath a quiet island, its volcano forming. Breath by breath, you are now so deep the crust gives way entirely. You hover near the upper mantle, a place not quite solid, not quite liquid. Rock here flows, but slowly, like glacier or wax. And in this semi-solid sea, the earth dreams itself forward. You feel the movement beneath your ribs, as though the planet's breath matches your own. Slow, steady, sure, up above. The world sleeps in its own way. The quiet streets, the forests. At night, the silent rotation of the globe under stars. But here, sleep means something different. It means gathering, building, becoming ready. Volcanoes do not sleep like we do. They do not close their eyes. They become still. Stillness is a kind of intelligence, a way of sensing, absorbing, preparing. The pressure builds gradually. Gases collect. Crystals form in the magma, changing its texture, making it thicker, harder to move. You imagine holding your breath for centuries. That's what this feels like. The volcano does not rush. It will erupt only when it must. Only when the heat, the pressure, the composition all say the same word at once. Now. But that moment is not tonight. Tonight you rest in its quiet. You press against the stone and listen again, this time more carefully. And you hear it, not with your ears, but with your whole self. A pulse, a sigh, a breath long held. This is not destruction, this is potential. A volcano is not waiting to explode. It is waiting to become, to shape, to shift, to give the earth new land, new life, new story. And so you rest here a while longer, in the warm dark, where magma stirs and stone exhales slowly, like a dragon turning in its sleep. Above you, far above, rain might be falling, winds might be falling, winds might be singing through pine trees. But down here, nothing rushes. You are part of that patience now. You understand its rhythm, its calm, and though your eyes are closed, you see more than you ever have, because the earth is always speaking. But only when you are quiet can you hear it. Just as your body holds breath and release, so does the mountain, so does the crust, so does the fire within. You begin to rise again, slowly, slowly, through the layers of stone, through warmth and pressure, back toward the cool night air and your resting place. But something has changed in you. You felt the earth's pulse, and now you carry it with you, like a drumbeat beneath your dreams. And as you emerge from the deep, the world above feels softer, more temporary, more tender. You wonder, gently, how many volcanoes lie sleeping beneath your feet right now, and what dreams they hold within their silence. But not all volcanoes sleep beneath mountains. Some rest under oceans, unseen, unheard, but no less alive. Next, you drift into the deep blue, where fire moves in shadows, and volcanoes bloom like flowers in the dark. You begin again in stillness. The memory of stone still lingers in your breath, but now the pull is downward, deeper than before, down past the brittle crust, into the soft and shadowed place where stone begins to flow. The mantle, it welcomes you slowly, like a warm bath drawn over centuries. Here, rock is not quite solid, not quite liquid. It exists in between, softened by heat, sculpted by pressure. You are floating now, not through air or water, but through a sea of softened stone. It is dark, yet glowing, dense, yet moving. There is no hurry here, only the slow spiral of heat, the long breath of the planet rising from a time before time began. You feel it beneath you, the ancient fire. It is not the fire of wood or coal or gas. It is the fire of creation, of memory held in minerals. This fire has burned for over 4 billion years, since Earth first formed from the dust of stars. It has never gone out. It will not go out soon. You drift alongside rising plumes of heat, columns of hot, buoyant rock that surge upward through the mantle like warm thoughts rising in a dreaming mind. They are called mantle plumes, and though you cannot see them from the surface, they are always there, gently pushing, gently feeding the crust from below. You follow one of them now, its edges flickering like breath against glass. The rock here glows faintly, a red deeper than blood, a color too old to name. This plume rises slowly. It takes millions of years to reach the crust, and yet it never stops, because Earth is always trying to balance its heat, to exhale what burns within. Around you, the mantle churns in vast convection loops. Hot rock rises. Cooler rock, having given up its warmth, sinks again. It is a quiet loop, an endless tide, circling through the planet's body. This is not chaos. This is rhythm. You see it now. The Earth moves in slow spirals, like a potter shaping clay from within. And within that spiral, volcanoes are born. They are not accidents. They are release valves, born from this slow, molten ballet. A pressure lifted, a burden shared as you float. You come upon a hidden river, a deep magma pathway beneath the crust. It winds like a glowing ribbon, pulsing softly as if it dreams. You drift beside it, feeling the heat without fear. It is not angry, this magma. It is ancient, focused, alive. You remember that rocks can melt, but only under pressure, only with enough heat, only when the balance tips and the solid becomes something else. Even stone, given time, learns how to flow. You feel the flow now beneath your hands, beneath your chest. It's like blood, like thought, like story. This is the fire that never dies. Not wild, not destructive, but purposeful, a kind of memory, because inside this magma are bits of the past, minerals recycled from ancient seafloors, crystals forged in lost continents, elements born in stars. Every eruption begins here, not with an explosion, but with the patient gathering of heat and history. You pass by bubbles forming in the molten rock, gases trapped, building slowly, water vapor, carbon dioxide, sulfur. These bubbles matter. They are small but powerful. They help magma rise. They shape the kind of eruption that may one day come. Some bubbles stay quiet, held down by the weight of the world. Others climb toward the surface, little pulses of possibility. It's strange, isn't it, to think that something as vast as a volcano can begin with something as delicate as a bubble. But that is the way of the Earth. Small things become great. Given time, you press your hand against the soft, molten flow, and it does not burn. It understands your presence, as if welcoming your curiosity. You listen again, There is always something to listen to in silence, and you hear it, the soft cracking of crystal formation, the distant creak of tectonic plates above. Plates, floating on this mantle sea, shift slowly, pushed from beneath. Continents move inches a year, but over time, those inches become oceans. The mantle's heat drives it all. The movement of continents, the opening of rifts, the formation of mountain chains, and the awakening of volcanoes. You drift past a boundary now, where two plates meet. One dives beneath the other, sliding into the heat like a memory returning to the body. This is subduction. Here, old ocean floor is swallowed, carrying water and minerals deep into the earth. The water lowers the melting point of the rock, and magma is born. You hover near this birthplace. The magma here is different, stickier, richer in gases, more likely to erupt with force. You feel its weight, and you understand that not all volcanoes are the same. Some flow gently, some explode. It depends on the magma's path, its composition, its memory, and always. It starts down here, in the deep, in the quiet, in the warmth that never fades. You feel the mantle's breath again, long, deep, steady, like the tide of time itself. It reminds you that the earth is not a place you stand on. It is a living system you are part of. You are shaped by it, moved by it, carried by its deep decisions. Even your bones, made from calcium and phosphorus, come from rocks that were once part of the sea, rocks that moved through this very mantle on a journey of their own. You are not separate from this. Fire, you carry it too, perhaps not as heat, but as memory, as instinct, as rhythm, and now, as you rise once more, you carry with you a deeper calm, not just from understanding, but from belonging. You know now that beneath every quiet mountain, every patch of soil, every sleeping volcano, the fire continues. It does not stop. It does not age. It simply waits and moves and becomes. You return upward through softened stone, through rising plumes and folded heat, toward the crust where coolness waits. You are lighter now, but fuller, too full of warmth you cannot see, full of knowing. And as you reach the surface once more, lying gently within your night, you wonder if volcanoes can sleep for thousands of years and still remember how to rise. What else lies, waiting, unseen? Not all volcanoes rise. Above land, some sleep beneath the waves, building mountains in the dark. Next, you drift into the quiet ocean, where fire blooms like coral, and islands are born from silence. Close your eyes. Let the weight of the surface world slip away. Let the light fade, sound soften, and gravity ease. You are drifting again. This time downward, not through stone, but through water. Deep, silent water. You descend slowly, as if through layers of breath. The sun disappears above you, its warmth replaced by a gentler pressure. The ocean surrounds you like a memory, dark, cool, and endlessly vast. And far below, where the light no longer reaches, a different kind of volcano sleeps. Down here, the giants are quiet, not because they are lifeless, but because the deep sea holds its secrets in stillness. You drift past schools of silver fish, each one a flicker of reflected nothing. And then the fish are gone, and the light is gone, and still you sink. Below you, the sea floor stretches like a forgotten continent, dusty, silent, cold, yet beneath it, fire, always fire. This is where most of Earth's volcanic activity happens not in fiery mountain peaks or smoky ridgelines, but beneath oceans, in the dark, where tectonic plates slowly pull apart. You touch down on this hidden world, gently, weightless in the hush. The seafloor feels solid, but you know it is only a crust, a thin shell resting on deeper heat. Around you, chimneys rise from the black basalt. They are tall, jagged towers, vents through which earth exhales into the sea. And from these vents, something miraculous, heat, smoke, life. The water here is nearly freezing. Yet from these openings, hydrothermal vents, scalding water pours out, rich with minerals. Black smoke billowing into the ocean, carving towers from metal and stone. You reach out your hand. The water around the vents is hot, but only in narrow streams. Just inches away, it returns to cold. Heat and cold in perfect dance, a contradiction held in quiet balance. And in this balance, life thrives. Tube worms wave like slow dancers in the current. Their bodies long, white, red-tipped creatures with no eyes, no mouths, living off the chemicals that rise from the vent. They do not need sunlight. They do not need surface air. They feed on minerals. Bacteria inside them turn chemical energy into life. This is cheosynthesis, a kind of alchemy born of heat and deep time. It reminds you that life doesn't only bloom in the light, it can grow in shadows. In warmth born from stone, you move past the vents, following the ridges that stretch endlessly across the sea floor. These are mid-ocean ridges, wounds in the earth where plates pull apart. And from these wounds, new crust forms. Magma rises slowly from the mantle, cooling as it touches the cold ocean. It becomes new seafloor, black, jagged, and expanding. You are walking now across this newly born rock, still warm in places, still releasing gas in quiet hisses. This is not destruction. It is construction, the planet building itself, inch by inch. And even here, volcanoes sleep. They do not roar, they pulse. They drift in and out of activity. Their eruptions softened by the weight of miles of water. You imagine an eruption beneath the sea. Not a fiery plume, but a blooming of heated water. A slow dance of lava against crushing pressure. The lava oozes out, forms pillow-like shapes as it cools. They are called pillow basalts, rounded swollen stones, like the sea's own breath. Solidified, you glide above them, each one a cooled sigh, each one a mark of ancient movement. Even when they are dormant, these underwater volcanoes breathe. They release gases, carbon dioxide, methane, sulfur. These gases shape the ocean's chemistry, and slowly, the climate of the world. You begin to understand these deep volcanoes are quiet, but their influence is vast. They form most of the Earth's crust. They shape ocean currents through underwater ridges. They feed unseen ecosystems. They offer warmth where cold should rule. And though they rest, they are never truly still. Sometimes, deep in the night, sensors on the ocean floor pick up a tremor, a whisper of movement, a shiver in the crust. A volcano has stirred, and the world above barely notices. The sea absorbs the sound, blankets the motion. But down here, you can feel it, a ripple of warmth, a push of new stone, a murmur of the earth remembering itself. You float once more, carried gently by slow underwater currents. Bioluminescent creatures flicker in the dark blue pulses. Green glows, like drifting stars. They light your way as you pass over ancient underwater calderas, the craters of once erupting giants. Now, They are quiet bowls of shadow, softened by sediment, guarded by silence. But even here, in their deepest sleep, you sense something alive. A pressure, a presence, a memory, not an end but a pause. The earth is not finished. It is only resting. You rise again through the ocean layers. The pressure lessens. The light returns, gently, like dawn seen through water. You feel weightless, but full of quiet knowing. The volcanoes of the deep do not call for attention. They do not shake the sky or spill fire into forests. They shape the world from the bottom in ways few ever see. And yet, they are among the most important as you break the surface. Drifting once more into the cool air of evening, you think of all that lies beneath the cities of heat, the gardens of smoke, the sleeping giants with glowing hearts, and you wonder if volcanoes can bloom in darkness, what else might rise quietly where no one thought to look. Some volcanoes sleep for thousands of years, not beneath the sea, but on land, beneath forests and snow. In the next chapter, you rest beside one such giant and learn why silence is never the same as stillness. You find yourself beneath an open sky. The air is crisp. The land around you rises and folds, old and gentle, like the pages of a book weathered by hands long gone. You sit on a slope of green and ash and time. It looks like a hill, but it is not a hill. It is a volcano, a sleeping one. You run your fingers through the soil. It's soft, fertile, humming faintly with warmth. Grass grows here. Wildflowers bloom. The stones are smooth with age, their edges rounded by wind, by rain, by waiting. There is no sign of fire, no steam, no smoke, no trembling, only silence. But silence, you've learned, doesn't mean stillness. You lie down on the slope, letting your back settle into the earth's shoulder. The mountain cradles you, and in its stillness, it tells a story. Thousands of years ago, this slope shook. Ash turned day to night. Lava spilled from its summit like breath to long held. Forests burned. Rivers turned to steam. The sky grew dark. Then came the long quiet. Not an end, a pause. Over centuries, life returned. The land cooled, healed, softened. The trees grew back. Birds returned to the sky. And people forgot what the mountain once did. But the mountain did not forget. It remembers everything. Every tremor, every eruption, every silence. Because volcanoes do not die, they rest. And this one is resting now. Not because it's empty, but because it's waiting. You close your eyes and breathe. The air is rich with the scent of pine, but beneath it, you sense something older, the mineral temps of buried heat. You imagine the inside of the volcano, not a hollow cavern, but a complex, layered body, cracks and chambers, pressure and pores. Its magma is cooled now, or sunk deeper into the mantle, but somewhere inside, the memory of motion still stirs. You listen. The earth has rhythms, and this mountain is part of them. You can almost feel its slow inhale, a movement so soft it takes centuries to complete. It's like a drum that hasn't been struck in a long time, but still holds the shape of sound. You press your hand to the ground. It's firm, solid, but in your bones you can feel the weight of waiting. Volcanoes like this are called dormant, not extinct, never extinct. Because as long as the earth breathes, the volcano remembers how. You wonder what triggers its waking. Is it pressure? From below, a slow leak of gas. A shift in the crust miles away. Often it's all of these, a chain of quiet changes, each one adding a thread to the web of readiness. But for now, this mountain sleeps, and you are here, listening to its dreams. You sit up and look around. The caldera is vast, a shallow bowl where the summit once stood, now green with moss and silence. You walk to its edge. The wind is gentle, carrying the soft sound of insects and moving leaves. And yet you sense what lies beneath. Imagine the magma chamber like a sleeping lung. It once filled, expanded, then collapsed. Now it rests, but even lungs at rest are ready to rise again. You descend into the crater, step by step into memory. You pass boulders cracked by past heat, rocks rich with minerals left behind by steam. These are signs, signs of what once was, and what still might be. You reach a place where the ground feels warm, not hot, but not cold either. Geothermal, they call it. Heat from below. A reminder that the fire has only gone quiet, not cold. You lie down again. Here, in the center of this ancient breath, you feel small, but not insignificant, just temporary. The mountain feels like a being, not human, not animal, but something alive, with a pulse too slow for our clocks. Volcanoes age differently. Their thoughts stretch across millennia. To them, 1,000 years is barely a blink. To them, silence is not strange. It is essential. You think of your own silences, of times when you've waited, not because you were lost, but because something inside was still forming. A thought, a feeling, a readiness. You and the mountain are not so different. Both of you hold heat. Both of you rest when needed. And both of you, when the time is right, know how to rise. You watch a cloud drift above the rim. It looks like smoke, but it isn't. Just water, just air, just the sky reminding you that appearances change, but memory endures. The soil here is volcanic, rich in nutrients, dark with ash from long ago. That's why the flowers grow so well, why trees thrive. Fire, once cooled, becomes the foundation for life. You think of that often, how destruction becomes nourishment, how endings feed beginnings. It's the way of the earth, the way of volcanoes. You walk now along the rim, feeling the slow tilt of the land, as if the mountain breathes beneath each step. Birds call from nearby trees. Their voices are sharp, brief, but even they seem to pause before echoing too loudly here, as if they, too, remember. You wonder how many people have stood here, how many have lived near this mountain, unaware of what it holds, trusting its quiet, building homes on its back. They call it safe, call it dead, but you know better. Stillness is not safety. Stillness is simply a kind of waiting, and the earth, in all its patience, waits with grace. You sit again near a vent, one that once released steam, now sealed by time. You place your ear to the rock, and though you hear nothing, you feel something. A hum, faint as the echo of a heartbeat heard through a wall. This is the dream of the volcano. It doesn't sleep the way we do. Its sleep is chemical, mechanical, tectonic, and yet there is something emotional here. TOOA, volcano, doesn't erupt because it's angry. It erupts because the pressure becomes too great. Because something inside must move, must shift, must find its shape. You close your eyes, feeling the mountain beneath you, the weight of it, the softness of time around it, the possibility curled in its stillness. The sky turns orange above. Dusk, shadows fill the crater like water rising in a bowl. And still the mountain does not stir, but you know it remembers. And now, so do you. You stand and begin your descent. Back down the slope, back toward the forest below. Every step is slow, deliberate. The earth feels different now, not passive, but filled with quiet intent. You glance back one last time. The volcano sleeps. Its silhouette against the twilight sky is peaceful, but never empty. You know that deep within, the fire still waits. Not in haste, not in fear, but with the calm of something that knows its time will come. And you wonder, what stirs inside a mountain while the world forgets its fire? And if volcanoes wait in silence, what gathers beneath their calm crusts? Next, you step into the hidden chambers beneath, where gases build like unspoken thoughts, and pressure whispers through cracks in stone. You return, once more, to the stillness beneath the earth, not the open slope of a silent volcano, not the glowing flows of the mantle, but a place between a hidden chamber where things unseen prepare to move. Here, the earth is quiet, but inside that quiet is tension. A gathering, a slow, invisible shift. You close your eyes and let your breath match the mountains, deep, slow, contained, and with each inhale, you begin to understand. Volcanoes do not erupt suddenly. They build, they hold, they wait. You're inside a magma chamber now. Not literally, but in feeling, in metaphor. The space is warm, dim, fluid in its energy. It moves, but softly, and around the edges, something builds. You float in that liquid world, magma curling like thought, slow but restless. It's molten, yes, but not fire. It's stone, melted over eons, still holding the memory of its solid form. It moves because it must, because heat rises, because the planet's breath pushes upward, but rising isn't easy. The crust above holds tight, a sealed lid on an inner world, and so the pressure grows. Think of it like steam in a kettle, or a sigh caught in your chest. The magma doesn't rage, it just expands. Tiny bubbles of gas begin to form, water vapor, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide. These gases are whispers at first, soft voices in the magma's movement. But they don't stay silent, they collect. They swell, you begin to feel it. Not panic, but awareness. The quiet tension of something unsaid. Your breath becomes part of it. You imagine your lungs are the chamber. Your breath, the magma, held, heated, pressed against the edges of stillness. What does it take for you to release? What moment makes you speak when holding your truth becomes too heavy? Volcanoes feel the same. Not sentient, but not thoughtless either. They respond to balance, to stress, to signals sent through stone. You float through these signals now, cracks forming in rock, microquakes, shifts in temperature, increased gas seeping through fissures. These are not accidents. They are part of a system older than breath. The earth doesn't guess. It listens. It knows when the pressure is too much. You drift alongside a bubble, just one, trapped inside molten stone. It quivers slightly, then joins another and another. Together they rise not quickly, but with purpose. They push magma upward, lowering its density, changing its movement. It thickens. It becomes more viscous, harder to escape, easier to trap more gas. The feedback loop begins. You rise with it. You feel the heaviness of the crust above. You feel the magma pushed gently at the base, just enough to ask, not yet enough to break. You press your hand to the inner wall of the volcano. It hums, faintly. a low vibration like a held note on a cello, and that hum travels. Seismographs catch it. Scientists call it harmonic tremor, a signal of magma moving, a whisper that becomes a warning. Not all volcanoes show this. Some stay silent. Some hold their heat without a sound. You wonder what it feels like to hold so much, so long. Is it like grief, like longing, like love? Whatever it is, it's never sudden. It's layered, accumulative. A poem written in stone. You float higher, toward the crust, where old lava flows weight like scars, where the earth holds the line between silence and release. You look down, the magma churns now, slower, heavier, full of crystals formed from earlier cooling. These crystals make it harder to move, more sticky, more likely to trap gas, more likely to erupt with force, and yet it waits. You feel a pause, like a breath drawn, but not released, held at the edge of expression. And that's where volcanoes live, on the edge, balanced between heat and stone, between holding and becoming. You listen closely. Somewhere a new fracture opens, a narrow pathway, a pressure valve. It might be nothing, or it might be everything, because sometimes one small change tips the scale. But until then, there is only the wait. You drift out of the chamber now, back through layers of cooled flows, old dikes, hardened plugs, channels sealed by time. Each one tells a story, not of eruption, but of waiting. You rise toward the summit. The crater above is calm. The air is still. People walk here now. They do not know what waits below, but you do. You felt it, heard it, held it inside you, not as fear, but as understanding, because pressure is not only danger, it is information. It tells us what is building. It asks us to listen. You walk. The ridge in twilight. The wind picks up. Not strong, just enough to carry a thought. You close your eyes and let your own stillness speak. You think about your own inner chambers, the thoughts you carry, the pressure you hold, and how even inside you release is not fury. It's a return to balance. The volcano agrees. It knows what you know, that waiting is not weakness. It is awareness, and that every eruption begins with a whisper. But when the pressure finally releases, what does it become? Next, you walk across a newborn landscape, where lava flows like ink across a blank page, and time bends in ways only fire can shape. You are walking across a world that was not here yesterday. It is still warm beneath your feet, still steaming. In places, still speaking in curls of gas and shimmering heat. And yet, it is land. New land, born from fire. The sky above is quiet, soft with low clouds that have nowhere urgent to be. The air is still, save for the occasional sigh of steam escaping from cracks in the surface below. You look down, the ground is black and wrinkled, a frozen river of stone, caught mid-motion. It ripples like taffy that cooled too fast, like skin, stretched across something once hot, now cooling. This is lava, but not in motion, not anymore. This lava has already flowed. It has already changed the map. Now it settles. Now it waits. You crouch to touch it gently. The surface is hard, almost glass-like, but the memory of heat lingers, rising faintly into your fingertips. Beneath that surface, the rock still moves, still adjusts, still shifts toward stillness. You walk farther, step by step, across this new skin of earth. Each step feels like walking across something ancient, even though it is only days or hours old. This is what lava does. It collapses. The timeline, it turns thought into landscape, turns a moment of eruption into a permanence that may last 10,000 years. The lava you walk on now once surged from the mountain's heart. Magma, finally released, pushed upward by pressure, lifted by gas. Uncoiled like breath, finally exhaled. You picture it, red and gold and white hot. Moving like liquid light, it surged down slopes, moved through forests, devoured everything in its path, but not out of anger, only because that is what it was made to do. Lava does not destroy because it chooses to. It transforms. It takes what was and folds it into what will be. A tree in its path is not lost. It is scorched into a silhouette, preserved in ash, its shape forever held in the cooling stone. A river becomes a corridor of steam. A field becomes a bed of fire. And later, when it all cools, a canvas, you pause beside a strange formation, a rope-like texture curled along the ground. It looks soft, but it's hard as bone. This is foiho, a Hawaiian word for smooth, ropey lava. It forms when the flow moves slowly, when the surface begins to cool, even as the inner lava still glides underneath. You imagine the flow as a thick blanket, spreading and folding, skin forming above blood, stone forming above memory. In other places, the lava is rough, jagged, spiked like shattered glass. This is our clinkery broken rock that scrapes the feet and bites the wind. It cools faster, moves with more force, stiffens while still in motion, breaking as it flows. You walk carefully between these two worlds, the smooth and the sharp, the gentle and the fractured, both born of the same eruption, both sculpted by time. It makes you wonder how many kinds of motion can exist within the same fire. You find a crack, a narrow fissure venting warm air. Steam rises in lazy spirals. You kneel and look down, but darkness stares back. Below this surface, the rock is still alive, still cooling, still becoming. It can take decades, even centuries, for a thick lava flow to fully lose its heat. Even as the top turns cold, the heart remains warm. Changing, crystallizing, time here moves differently, not by hours or days, but by density, by depth, by temperature. You step farther out onto the field. Here, the lava is fresh enough that no plants have returned. No roots have yet tested its cracks. No moss has softened its edges. It is still becoming land. You wonder how long it will take before something green dares to return. Maybe decades, maybe more, but it will happen. It always does, because lava does not mark the end of life. It lays the ground for something new. In Iceland, they say moss is the first to return. Tiny, determined, soft. It crawls across cooled lava like sleep, reclaiming the body after a fever in Hawaii. Ferns arrive early, spiraling upward from cracks, reaching for sun through sheets of black stone. Even here, in your own imagining, you see a single blade of grass growing from a narrow crevice. It bends in the wind, but it is there. Life does not fear lava. It waits for it to cool, and then begins again. You come to a part of the field where the lava spilled like a slow waterfall down a slope of older stone. The movement is frozen now, a cascade of rock caught mid-pour. It feels impossible to see motion captured in something so solid, and yet it's all around you. Waves of frozen flow, curves that once shimmered and shifted, now still, but not silent, because even in cooling, the lava is active. As it solidifies, it contracts, it cracks, it echoes, You hear it if you listen. Pops, clicks, distant thumps. The song of stone adjusting to its shape. Sometimes it forms columns, perfect geometric shapes, hexagons and pentagons in a honeycomb of basalt. These columnar joints are made not by hands, but by cooling itself, by the way heat leaves the lava evenly over time. The earth sculpts itself, 1 degree at a time. You reach a place where the lava pooled, forming a wide, flat plain. It shines faintly under the clouded sky, still wet-looking, though cool to touch. This is where the flow paused, where the energy ran out, where heat and gravity came to balance. You sit at the edge of it, looking across the vast new floor. It feels like a breath held mid-sentence, like a pause in thought, like a blank page waiting for the first green word to return. You realize something here, that time doesn't move the same for everything. To you, days pass quickly, moments rush by, but for lava, a minute can last a century. A cooling flow is still becoming land long after it looks complete. To volcanoes, time is not rigid, it is clay. It stretches and folds and holds the shape of motion long after motion ends. You reach into your memory, thinking of old photos you've seen, lava fountains arcing in red, molten rivers glowing in night. They are fast, they are dramatic, but here now, in the after, you see the true magic, not the flash of eruption, but the slow becoming of stone, the way fire settles, the way time hardens into landscape. You breathe in the steam, the minerals, the quiet, and in that breath, you feel the mountain again, not in motion, but in memory, in shape, in patience. The lava is not finished. Even now, it cools beneath your feet. It thickens, it shifts. And far below, new magma stirs, already beginning again. You rise slowly, step by step, across the field your footsteps, light against the newborn earth. In the distance, you see the edge where the old land and the new one meet, a seam between past and present. You walk toward it, and as you do, you wonder, what does a volcano say before it wakes again? Before the mountain speaks in fire, it speaks in signs, in gases, in tremors, in quiet swelling. Next, you listen for the language of ash and steam, and learn how the earth leaves clues in every sigh. You are standing at the base of a mountain that does not seem to move. Its shape is steady, its slopes are quiet, but something inside you listens for something the eyes cannot see and the ears may not catch. Not right away, because volcanoes speak. Not with shouts, not with sudden gestures. They speak in whispers, in patterns, in subtle shifts that only the patient can hear. You become still, more still than you have been in days. Not because you expect drama, but because the story is already being told. Steam curls upward from a rocky vent. Not much, just a faint breath rising into the cool morning air. You step closer. The steam smells faintly of minerals and carries the warmth of something deeper. This is a sigh. The volcano sighs often, and each sigh carries information, temperature, pressure, chemical fingerprints of what stirs below. You watch the steam fade into air. It doesn't startle, it doesn't alarm, it simply exists. A punctuation mark in a long sentence of stone and time. Nearby, a machine hums, a seismograph, recording the tiniest movements. Each tremor is traced in ink or pixels, creating patterns that look like waves. They are waves, not of water, of stress. You imagine the earth taking a deep breath, then holding it for 1,000 years. But even in that hold, the crust shifts. Tiny movements, creaks in the deep, like a house settling in the night. Some of those movements mean little, some mean much, and this is how you begin to listen, by learning to tell the difference. You crouch beside a patch of bare earth. There, you notice warmth rising through your boots, subtle, gentle, but steady. Beneath that warmth is magma, still distant, but present. A reminder that volcanoes are never truly quiet. They are always thinking, always forming a sentence beneath your feet. You run your fingers over the soil. It feels loose in some places, cracked in others. The heat here causes water to evaporate, changing the land in ways that few people notice. But you are not like most people now. You are the listener, the reader of signs. Up on the slope, you notice something else, a bulge, barely visible. But the curve of the land has changed. Just slightly, the earth is swelling here. Not like a wound, but like a breath preparing to speak. This bulge tells you something. It tells you that magma may be rising, pushing from below, lifting the crust like a note swelling toward a song. Scientists call this deformation. The ground itself expands, changes shape under invisible pressure. You sit and trace the shape with your eyes, a gentle arc. It was not here last year. It might not be here next, but now it is part of the conversation. In the air, a new smell, sharp, sulphurous, a clue. You close your eyes and follow it inward. Sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide, hydrogen sulfide. These are not just gases. They are words. Each one means something about the depth of the magma, about its chemical makeup, about its mood. You imagine them like ink on paper, writing slow sentences in the wind. And as you breathe it in carefully, you understand the volcano is writing something, not for alarm, but for understanding. In the distance, you hear a deep rumble, low, rolling, almost like thunder. But the sky is clear. This sound comes from below. It is a long-period earthquake, a vibration made when magma moves through rock, echoing through the volcano's body like a slow drumbeat. Not all earthquakes are violent. Some are just messages, tectonic murmurs, stretched like silk across fault lines. You begin to feel the rhythm of these signs: gas, heat, deformation, tremor. They come not randomly, but as verses in a poem the earth writes each day. You watch the clouds drift across the sky, casting shadows on the slopes. The light shifts, the air cools slightly, but the mountain does not change its rhythm. You place your hand on a dark stone. It is warm, still holding heat from the sun, but also from below. You imagine what lies beneath, a slow, rising column of magma, like ink pulled toward paper, not yet there. But on its way, you rise and walk a narrow path that winds along the rim of the crater dot below. A shallow lake shimmers, its color tinted faintly blue-green from dissolved gases. Bubbles rise from the lake bed. Not many, just enough. You kneel by the edge and watch. Each bubble is a breath, a line, a note. You think of volcanologists who place sensors here, who measure temperature, pH, gas composition. They are translators. You are becoming one too, not with machines, but with presence, with patience, with stillness. Because volcanoes do not rush. Their stories unfold over weeks, months, centuries, but always the language is there for those who know how to see it. Ash, when it comes, is also part of the message. You picture it fine, soft, drifting ash that rises into the sky during eruption. But sometimes, even in the absence of eruption, ash appears. Tiny bursts, signals. You touch your fingertip to a pale smudge on the rock. It flakes slightly. Old ash, a memory from long ago when the mountain spoke louder. It reminds you that silence is never complete, that beneath every moment of calm there is a trace of what was and what may return. As dusk falls, the volcano seems to fade into the dimming sky. Its edges blur, its colors soften, but the signs do not stop. They continue. In the dark, infrared waves from warm rock, gas plumes glowing under satellite sensors, seismic murmurs too soft for ears, but not too soft to matter. You sit now, legs tucked beneath you, hands resting on the warm ground, and you feel it. The gentle pulse of the mountain's breath, a language without words, a message without urgency, but with meaning always. You begin to wonder if a volcano can speak so clearly without a voice. What else in nature is trying to say something? What other slow messages have you missed in your haste? And you are not the only one listening. Around the world, a chain of volcanoes whispers to each other through the crust. Next, you drift into the Pacific Ring of Fire, where tectonic plates collide and the planet draws circles in stone. You begin at the water's edge, where the sea is almost calm, but you know its depths conceal powerful forces. You step into a small boat that floats gently over quiet waves, the hull rocking you into the rhythm of the Pacific. Around you, the horizon stretches wide. In the distance, a string of volcanic peaks rises from the ocean, their summits folded into clouds. This is the Ring of Fire, a great circle of fire and stone that traces the edge of continents and islands, where the Earth's plates meet and part in silent conflict. As you drift, you feel the subtle tug of plates beneath you. One plate slides under another, sinking into molten rock, while the adjacent plate slides upward, lifting islands like lanterns from the depths. You imagine the ocean floor as a giant conveyor belt, pulling and pushing, shaping mountains and trenches far below your boat. Though you cannot see these plates, you sense their presence in every swell, every undercurrent, every faint throb beneath the waves. Ahead, a line of smoke wisps along a distant peak, and you steer toward it. The boat's engine hum fades, replaced by the call of seabirds and the whisper of wind. Beneath the surface, the plate boundary slips ever so slowly, millimeters per year, but over centuries enough to build an island or swallow a sea. Here, in this zone of collision and subduction, volcanoes dot the rim like glowing embers on a hearth. You land on a black sand beach at the foot of one such volcano. The sand is warm, still holding heat from sun and underground warmth. You walk toward its base, each step bringing you closer to where ocean meets land in a violent embrace. Here, the oceanic plate descends beneath the continental plate, carrying with it water-saturated rock. That water lowers melting temperatures and gives birth to magma, feeding the volcano above. You feel that gift of water and rock in the brackish air, salty and tinged with mineral steam. Higher up, the slope is cloaked in lush rainforest. Ferns and orchids cling to lava boulders, and the air hums with insects and dripping leaves. You pause beneath a giant fern and listen to the steady drip of water into leaf cups. Even in paradise, the mountain reminds you of its hidden fire, feeding life as much as threatening it. You trace a fallen frond, its veins like rivers carved in green, and you sense the same network of flow in the rock beneath your feet. You climb slowly, finding smooth, cooled lava that leads to the volcano's rim. Along the way, you pass fumaroles that exhale warm air like breaths whispered into the forest. Each puff is a message, heat escaping, pressure easing, the mountain communicating in steam rather than sound. You inhale gently, tasting the temps of sulfur, the promise of deeper warmth. This is not danger. It is conversation. At the crater's edge, you stand between sky and earth. The view spans the arc of islands and continents that form the ring of fire. From here, you see Japan's volcanic peaks to the northwest, the Cascades to the northeast, the Andes to the southeast, and the islands of Indonesia weaving between. It is a circle of fire, unbroken, a necklace of peaks strung around the Pacific basin. Each volcano is part of a chain, linked by the motion of plates deep beneath. You imagine the plates as living circles, too. The Pacific plate shrinks as it's consumed by subduction, while the Eurasian, North American, Nazca, and Australian plates grow and shift. The circle of fire pulses with their movement, each volcano rising in response to the same hidden dance. You feel dizzy with wonder at the scale and grace of this system. A world shaped by loops, not lines. You settle on a cool rock and close your eyes. You recall a map drawn on old parchment, showing the plate boundaries like fault lines in a shell, and you see now that they form loops of creation and destruction. Islands birth from the sea, mountains emerge from below, trenches swallow rock, only to give rise to volcanoes elsewhere. It is an eternal cycle, a breathing circle that shapes every coast and continent as you rest. The volcano next to you exhales steam, a gentle plume that drifts into a gallery of clouds. You feel its warmth in the breeze, a reminder that beneath your seat lies a magma chamber fed by global circulation. This circulation is invisible, yet you feel it as surely as the heartbeat beneath your ribs. You are part of it too, your body built from elements forged in stars, recycled through Earth's crust, inherited from these very processes. The sun lowers, casting an amber glow on the volcanic peaks encircling the sea. Shadow and light weave, patterns on the slopes, as if painting the world in cycles of illumination and rest. You stand and stretch, letting the calm of the moment fill you. The world is vast and ancient, but you carry its pulse in your bones. You return to the boat at twilight, strapping yourself in as the oars dip into dark water. The journey back is slow and soft, guided by starlight and the bioluminescence that flickers beneath the hull. You drift through currents shaped by underwater ridges and trenches, reminders of the plate's embrace. In the hush, you hear the gentle lapping of waves, the echo of the Earth's circle in sound. As the shore fades behind you, you understand that the ring of fire is a living circle of connection. Volcanoes here do not stand isolated. They are neighbors in a conversation, spoken in heat and stone, in tremors and steam. And you, the traveler, are both witness and listener, carried along the loop of fire. Cradled by the planet's rhythms, you drift into night, the glow of distant volcanic lights marking your path. Each point of light is a sleeping giant, waiting its moment. Each whisper of steam is a verse in the mountain's poem. Each ripple in the water is a plate shifting deep beneath the waves. Some giants sleep for tens of thousands of years, gathering power in silence. Next, you visit one such supervolcano, where a single awakening could reshape the world, and patience reigns over millennia. You arrive at the rim of a vast crater that few have ever seen. It stretches before you like an ancient amphitheater. Carved by time itself, you stand at the edge, where the world feels both immense and intimate. This is a caldera-collapsed volcano so large that it shifts your sense of scale and stillness. The ground here is cratered and green with meadows, but you know what lies beneath. A sleeping giant, a supervolcano, slumbering for tens of thousands of years. You step forward, toes brushing the edge of grassy earth. Inside the caldera, the land tilts away, revealing gentle slopes and quiet lakes that rest like tranquil mirrors. There is no steam, no tremor, no ash. Only soft winds rustle through grasses and wildflowers. And yet, the air carries the weight of patience. Beneath your feet, the crust is thin. Beneath that, a reservoir of molten rock, vast beyond imagining, waits in silence. You breathe in the cool air. The scent of wet stone and pine drifts past your senses. With each inhale, you invite calm. With each exhale, you release tension. The mountain's stillness becomes your own. Here, you learn that true power does not always shout. Sometimes it waits. You walk into the caldera's heart. The slope descends gently, and you follow a narrow path worn by hikers who seek this secret place. Each step is slow, deliberate, mindful. You feel the soft give of soil, the resistance of gravel. You connect with the earth in every movement, as though you are part of its breathing, and it breathes beneath you. You close your eyes and listen. The small rustle of leaves becomes a chorus of sighs. The distant lapping of water against a shoreline becomes the song of depth. You are attuned to the language of subtle motion. You are learning to hear the mountains sleep. Further down, you come to a series of hot springs. They steam gently, their waters clear and warm. They find cracks in the crust, allowing heat from below to escape. You kneel beside one, curious. The water shimmers with mineral hues, soft blues, and pale greens. You dip a finger in. It is warm, comforting, like a touch from deep time. These springs are whispers of the supervolcano's memory. Each bubble is a sigh, each ripple a note in a slow melody. You watch the steam rise, fold into the air. You catch its sense, and mineral, earthy and alive. It reminds you that beneath the calm surface, processes unfold that shape continents and climates. You rise and continue. The path leads you to a tarp-covered instrument, something that looks like a varnished wooden box. Inside, sensors record subtle deformation. You imagine the mountain as a living being with skin that moves, expands, contracts. The instruments are its heartbeat monitors, tracing every gentle pulse. You rest by a stone bench, carved with weathered letters left by explorers of earlier centuries. Their names stand as silent witnesses to the mountain's patience. They climbed here in search of transcendence. They climbed to feel small and whole at once. And here you are, following their footsteps, learning patience from stone. You close your eyes, tilt your face to the sky, and feel the sun's warmth filtered through a veil of high clouds. You become aware of the sky's presence in this space. You think of how supervolcanoes shape the sky when they erupt dust and gas rising to cloak the sun, changing seasons, altering climates. But this caldera remains unbroken, a cradle of tranquility and reserve. Your mind drifts 2 times long ago when this giant last awakened. A blast so immense that it reshaped landscapes, darkened skies, cooled summers. You imagine the sound, but you cannot. too powerful for memory. Instead, you hold the echo in your heart, a whisper of what patience can become when released. You stand and follow another trail winding around a small lake. The water is clear enough that you see smooth stones at the bottom, sculpted by wind. And dragonflies skim the surface, their wings catching the sun like stained glass. You kneel to watch a ripple spread from a falling leaf, growing, fading, growing again in a gentle loop. In that loop, you see the cycles of the giant beneath, the gathering of pressure, the release of energy, the return to calm. You rise and feel a gentle vibration underfoot. So faint you almost doubt it, but you sense it. A reminder that the mountain sleeps but breathes. It inhales molten rock, exhales steam and gas. It remembers its own cycles, and you become part of them, each inhale, each beat. The path leads upward on the other side of the caldera. You climb slowly, footprints tracing, a spiral back to the rim. With each gain in height, the view expands. You see ridges and valleys draped in forests, rivers sliding through green clefts. Beyond, the horizon rolls in gentle waves of mountain silhouettes. The world feels vast, yet this caldera holds an intimate power at the top. You pause. The sun tilts low, casting long shadows across the rim. The grasses glow gold. The air tastes of evening. You think of time here, how a single day is meaningless against the giant's 1,000-year sleep. Yet your day matters. Your presence matters. You become a witness, a keeper of memory, a quiet participant in a story that spans eons. You lean against a weathered boulder. You trace its lines, its cracks, its smooth patches worn by wind and rain. These textures are the mountain's autobiography. Each fissure marks an episode: gentle rumble, hot spring, silent drift of ash. You feel humble in the face of such patience. The sky deepens to soft pink. A lone hawk circles above, silent, surveying the land. You envy its freedom, yet envy not. You belong here, on the edge of silence and power. You allow the hush to settle. In your thoughts, filling every crevice with calm, you take a final breath of the cool air. You feel your chest rise and fall in sync with a rhythm older than life. You sense how deeply you are tied to stone and sky and water. You realize that even as you prepare to leave, a part of you remains listening, waiting, dreaming alongside. The giant beneath. Night comes softly here, carrying a canopy of stars untouched by city lights. You lie back on the grass near the rim and look upward, tracing constellations stitched across the sky. Each point of light is a star many light years away, ancient fires burning in silence. You think of the supervolcano beneath, its own fire, slumbering, gathering energy. In the cosmic quiet above, you feel the connection between the heavens and the earth's hidden heart. Both expand your sense of time and scale, reminding you that beneath the stars and the mountain's calm there lies a shared sense of patient waiting. You notice a faint guide light blinking on a distant ridge, a research station where scientists monitor this giant's vital signs. Automated instruments record temperature, gas emissions, ground deformation, and seismic tremors. Their data streams in continuously, feeding algorithms that guard against surprises. You imagine the scientists studying graphs and charts in warm labs, coffee in hand, listening to the mountain's signals with attentive care. Their watches are both scientific and sacred, an act of devotion that honors the mountain's long slumber and careful watch. As you turn, you see a cluster of tiny, heat-loving microbes thriving near a hot spring, glowing faintly under ultraviolet light. These extremophiles call the deep warmth home, converting dissolved minerals into sustenance. They are the mountain's first responders, claiming a foothold where few others can. Their existence feels magical life emerging from molten rock, a testament to resilience and adaptation. You smile at the thought that life itself learns to wait for warmth, to flourish when conditions shift imperceptibly over centuries, guiding life toward patterns we scarcely notice. You climb down to a flat terrace carved by ancient flows, now etched with lichen and moss. Here you kneel and place your palm on cooled basalt, feeling its texture, gritty, veined, holding the imprint of motion. You press more firmly, imagining the rock's slow contraction as it cooled, forming hexagonal columns that rise like silent sentinels. Each column is a record of gradual change, shaped by temperature, gradients, and time. You feel reverence for this slow sculpting of the earth. You rise and wander to the crater's far side, where a mirror-like lake reflects the rim's colors. The water is still, save for the occasional wink of fish breaking the surface. You squat by the shore and drop a pebble into the water. Rings expand imperceptibly, then fade. You think of how a small change in the magma chamber, new bubble of gas, a fresh fracture might send ripples through the crust, slowly magnifying until the mountain stirs. The analogy comforts you. Change begins small, almost invisible to most eyes, but clear to those who learn to listen with their whole being. The moon rises over the caldera, casting silver light on grasses and boulders. The world seems to shimmer, as if breathing in lunar glow. You feel the gentle pull of tides, now touching land and stone alike. The moon's influence reaches into deep cycles, not only in oceans, but in the Earth's interior, subtly affecting stresses. You realize that cycles intertwine. Day and night, ebb and flow, slumber and awakening. Everything moves in loops. You stand and raise your arms wide, as if embracing the whole valley. You close your eyes and sense the convergence of forces tectonic, hydrologic, cosmic. You sense your own rhythms aligning, heartbeat, breath, thought. You are a participant in these cycles, a momentary bloom in the valley of time. Gratitude fills you for this communion with stone and sky and star. You decide to linger a little longer beside the lake. You sit on a log, wrapping your arms around your knees, inhaling the crisp air of night. You watch the surface for bioluminescent plankton that glow when disturbed. You marvel at life's ability to claim every niche from mighty magma chambers. Two fleeting surface ripples. It all feels part of one story, one grand tapestry of waiting and becoming. Eventually, you rise and make your way back toward the path. You walk in silence, lit by moonlight and station beacons. Each step feels weighted with meaning, a journey through scales of space and time. The air grows cooler. The stars shift. Overhead, you sense dawn approaching somewhere beyond the horizon. You reach the rim again and stop. You look into the caldera one last time, where darkness pools in low spots and moonlight turns vegetation silver. In that hush, you sense deep currents of heat still moving under the crust, ready to rise when the world tilts toward their moment. You remember that patience is not passive, it is active readiness. It holds the shape of what will unfold. With a final breath, you turn away and descend the gentle slope. Your footsteps carry you toward the forest's edge. You leave behind the caldera's secret, a quiet power shaped by slumber, cycles, and stillness. You carry its memory with you, a gift of perspective and peace. Before sleep welcomes you. You pause under the starlit sky and feel the mountains echo in your bones. You carry its calm, its cycles. In dreams, you journey through stone and slumber, holding the giant's patience within your heart. When morning light arrives, you awaken with gratitude for a secret shared, an ancient story beneath every footprint. You rest with wonder. And if giant volcanoes can pause for millennia, what shapes the world in the moments between? Next, you visit a land reborn by fire, where forests bloom on black stone, and life springs up from ancient ash. You close your eyes and let your mind drift back through the ages. Imagine a sky so dark that daylight becomes a memory, the sun, reduced to a pale disk behind curtains of ash. You breathe slowly, inhaling the idea of that ancient world, and find yourself standing at the foot of a mighty volcano on the eve of its greatest awakening. The mountain before you is colossal. Its flanks are draped in forests now, but you sense what lies beneath, a chamber swollen with molten rock, waiting to rewrite the sky. You step forward and feel the ground tremble a low, distant pulse that grows in tempo. It is the heartbeat of the earth gathering strength above. The air grows thick and cool. You look up and see the first wisps of smoke, thin at first, then growing into great ribbons that coil into the sky. You climb a gentle slope to gain height, moving slowly because the world around you has slowed. Every sound seems distant, as if drowning in the hush before an orchestra plays its final chord. At the summit, you stand on the rim of an enormous crater. From here, you watch as the smoke becomes ash, and the ash clouds billow outward in great dark waves. They rise like Gothic towers, blotting out the blue. You inhale and taste the ash on your tongue, dry, metallic, ancient dot. Then comes the roar, a trembling in the air, a rushing wind that sweeps across the land. The volcano exhales its memory, sending a plume of ash and gas high into the stratosphere. You watch the column soar, a dark spear dividing the sky. It carries sulfur and tiny glass shards, each particle a token of the mountain's power. You close your eyes and feel the weight of the ash settling around you. It drifts down in slow motion, like snowfall in reverse. You feel it on your skin, in your hair, coating everything with its silent hush. The world becomes monochrome, fields vanish, forests fade, rivers turn ghostly. You open your eyes and drift forward, carried by a gentle wind. The ash carpet crinkles beneath your feet as you walk through a city once alive with color and sound. Now it lies in quiet ruin, its walls half buried. You imagine emperors and farmers, unaware of the darkness's approach, then finding themselves stumbling through streets where day has become night. You lift a handful of ash. It is heavy, fine, cold. You let it sift through your fingers like a slow hourglass. Each grain tells a story of fire and sky, of mountain and wind. You taste the faint tang of sulfur and remember that volcanoes do more than reshape the ground. They reshape the atmosphere, bending seasons and global climate. You climb again, this time up an older ridge, where the ash layer has thinned with wind and rain. Beneath it lies a darker, older layer rash from an even more ancient eruption, another fingerprint on time. You kneel and touch the ground, feeling the sediment of centuries beneath your palm. Each layer is a page in Earth's diary, written by fire and preserved in stone. Above you, the sun, once bright, is now dim and blinking through a veil. You close your eyes, feeling the chill of filtered light, and sense the shift in the air. Temperatures drop, crops falter, storms gather. You remember that volcanic winters can last years, touching every corner of the globe with cool shadows. You stand and walk toward a lone tree clinging to the ridge. Its branches are bare, its bark dulled by ash, yet it stands. You place your palm on its trunk and sense resilience. Life endures beneath the weight of sky-darkening ash. You imagine seeds buried for years, waiting for light to return. You look out across the land and see distant mountains, some sleeping, some stirring. You realize that this eruption is part of a symphony of peaks. Volcanoes have shaped civilizations and cultures. From Rome to Tang China to the Andes, their ash has fed soils, fueled myths, built pyramids from hardened tuff. As the air clears, slowly you watch the sun's rays break through the thinning clouds. The world is transformed. An ashen glow bathes familiar landscapes, casting long, surreal shadows. You breathe deeply and feel time stretch what was a moment of eruption, becomes centuries of change. You sit on a ridge of hardened ash and let your mind drift. You see the first green shoots breaking soil centuries later. You see fields of wheat waving in a sunlit breeze, fed by minerals carried down in ash. You see civilizations reborn, stronger for the challenge survived. You rise and take a final look at the smoking crater behind you. The mountain has spoken in thunder and darkness, but its final word is renewal. You carry its lesson in your bones, that endings are seeds for beginnings, that fire's memory lingers in sky and soil, that even sleeping giants leave fingerprints. On time, you begin to descend the ridge, each step in rhythm with a renewed heartbeat yours and the earth's. The ash underfoot crumbles softly, reminding you that all stories, even the darkest, lead into light. From the shadow of ash to fields of green, your path leads into forests that grew from fire. Next, you wander among new life, where black stone nurtures emerald canopies, and the cycle of destruction and renewal continues. You step into the valley at dawn, and the air tastes of dew and new leaves. Beneath your boots, the ground is soft with moss and young grass. But you know the story that lies underneath. Centuries ago, this place was black and barren, a sea of molten rock that surged and spilled until the mountain's roar quieted. Now, the lava has cooled. It rests in layers of glassy stone, folded into ridges and hollows, waiting patiently beneath the green. You breathe deeply, filling your lungs with the scent of pine and fern. Every inhale reminds you of the valley's journey from fire to forest. You walk slowly, toes sinking into rich soil that was once hot enough to melt iron beneath the surface. You imagine the cooled flows, the foiho that once rippled like water, the that shattered into jagged fragments. Now, both are hidden under life's gentle blanket. First, the pioneers arrived, lichen, tiny, unassuming life forms that cling to bare rock, secreting acids that pry apart mineral grains. You crouch to examine a patch of pale green lichen crawling over a basalt boulder. It seems fragile, almost forgotten, but it lays the foundation for all that follows. Through its slow chemistry, it creates pockets of soil, microscopic cradles for the next wave of life. Above you, a breeze stirs the canopy of young birch and alder, their pale trunks glowing in the morning light. These are the forest's that fix nitrogen in the soil, drawing nourishment from the air to enrich the ground. You wander beneath branches heavy with catcones and new leaves, watching sunlight quilt the forest floor in shifting patterns. In places, the lava's wrinkles still show through hummocks of black rock peeking out from mossy carpets. You step onto one and feel the contrast. Cool, hard stone underfoot, alive with the slow warmth of life. Small ferns unfurl from cracks, their fronds arching like green feathers. You tilt your head to watch a fern's spiral tippin unfurling. Promise of growth from ancient heat. You follow a narrow stream that threads through the valley, its water clear and cold. You kneel and cup the water, tasting its purity. This stream began as rain and snowmelt, seeping through porous lava layers, filtering minerals from the stone. Each drop carries the memory of fire, now softened by passage through the ground. The stream sings as it tumbles over stones, a lullaby of renewal. Along the banks, willows and alders lean toward the water, their roots tangled in the cracks of lava. You imagine their roots probing deep, searching for moisture, anchoring the silty edges where soil meets stone. Their branches dip into the stream, offering shade to tadpoles and water insects. You watch a small fish dart beneath your hand and marvel at life's persistence. You rise and wander up a gentle slope where the lava field's edge meets older soil. Here you see diversity in miniature, grasses in pale green patches, clusters of lupin adding purple touches, stands of fireweed bright as lanterns. Each plant has its niche, some cling to bare rock, others to gravelly pockets, others to deeper soil. Together they weave an ecological mosaic. You pause beneath a stand of young Douglas fir, their needles deep green and soft. You close your eyes and listen. The wind hums in the needles, birds trill overhead, and far below, the valley's contours whisper of cooling flows. You press your palm against the trunk of a remnants of ash dust, its bark, and feel the tree's quiet strength, grown in a cradle of stone. Further on, you come to a clearing where a single twisted cottonwood stands sentinel. Its trunk curves away from the wind, bark mottled with age. You sit at its base, leaning back against its sturdy roots. They snake across the ground like ancient fingers, gripping rock and soil. You feel the pulse of life in those roots, steady, patient, unhurried. Across the meadow, fireweed stands tall in ghostly pink, a pioneer of recent burns. It is named for its love of scorched land, thriving where others cannot. You reach out and brush a flower, its petals soft as silk. You think of how certain plants wait for the clearing of fire, how they turn destruction into invitation. They remind you that fire's memory is both harsh and hopeful. You rise again, drawn toward a distant blaze of yellow coltsfoot and goldenrod dancing in the sunlight. Together, they mark a place where the soil is richest, where the old lava flow lay thinner. You step off the rocky hummocks onto earth grown deep with centuries of organic matter. Here, you feel the valley breathe beneath your feet, a gentle exhalation from deep time. You wander beneath oaks and maples that have taken root in pockets of rich soil. You notice acorns and samaras littering the ground seeds, waiting for squirrels to bury them, for birds to carry them, for chance to guide new life. You pick one up, smooth, brown, full of possibility. You imagine it sprouting in a crack in the rock, sending a tiny root into the stone's heart. Above, a hawk circles, on thermals rising from sun-warmed rocks. Its cry echoes through the valley, a reminder that renewal reaches higher than the forest canopy. You raise your arms as if to catch that cry, to embrace the sky's promise. In its call, you hear echoes of ancient eruptions, of swirling ash clouds, of fire touching the sky. You follow the hawk's flight up a ridge where old lava tubes run underground. You step over a collapsed section, peering into a dark tunnel, lined with shiny glass walls. It is a conduit once filled with flowing lava, now an underground hallway of stone. You think of how life might find this hidden chamber, bats roosting in crevices, moss hanging from its roof, water trickling through. Even these tunnels shape the valley's ecology. You sit on the ridge, watching the valley spread below green, waves riding the black backbone of cooled flows. In that view, you understand the valley's arc, born in fire, tempered in time, blossoming in green. It holds the paradox of destruction and creation, of endings that seed beginnings. You stand and lean forward, letting the wind carry your hair. You sense movement in the valley, a deer stepping through underbrush, a woodpecker tapping a snag, a chorus of frogs calling near the stream. Each is a testament to renewal, to life's capacity to reclaim and transform. You walk down the far side of the ridge toward a stand of red alder, their bark chalky and white. Beneath their canopy, the moss is thick and spongy, soft as carpet. You lie down, closing your eyes, letting your body sink into green comfort. You feel the forest's heartbeater, slow rhythm of growth and decay, of roots drawing nutrients, of leaves falling and feeding the soil. In that stillness, you recall the valley's fire. You remember the heat that once poured over these slopes, the silence that followed, the millennia of wait. Now, you are part of the weight breathing in the valley's slow pulse, exhaling gratitude for its transformation. Night falls gently, and fireflies emerge, tiny sparks in the darkening green. They hover around you like stars dropped to earth. You watch them dance, each flicker a note in the valley's lullaby. You close your eyes, letting the forest's dark embrace and these motes of light carry you toward sleep. And as you drift into dreams, you carry with you the valley's story of black stone turned to green, of ashes to petals, of fire's fierce memory softened by life's gentle insistence. But the forest is not the end of the story. Within you lies a volcano of emotion, waiting. In quiet chambers, next, you explore the fire that moves inside. You settle into stillness and feel the rhythm of your own breath. Each inhale gathers warmth, each exhale releases it. You close your eyes and imagine yourself within a chamber of stone, a hidden cavern shaped by years of experience and memory. Here, in the quiet depths of your being, you recognize a volcanoes pattern mirrored in your own heart. You build pressure when you hold thoughts unspoken. Each idea, each feeling, collects behind a wall of restraint. You feel it in your chest, a gentle push that grows firmer every day. Yet you do not rush. You learn patience from the earth, which holds its own magma for centuries before it finds a path to flow. Your mind becomes the magma chamber. Thoughts bright, molten swirl beneath the surface of consciousness. They form in heat, the heat of passion, of worry, of longing. They rise in plumes of possibility, seeking cracks in your defenses. You sense them there, warm and insistent, pushing against the shell you've built. Sometimes the pressure is enough to crack your calm. A sudden word breaks free, a sigh escapes your lips, a tear rolls down your cheek. It feels explosive, but it is not fury, it is release. It is the self-recognizing that waiting too long can hold away the flow of understanding. You learn to listen to the signs, a tightness in your throat, a tremor in your hands, a rapid dance of your heartbeat. These are harmonic tremors, signals of movement below the surface. They tell you that transformation is near, that the inner currents are shifting, that you must honor the need to speak, to act, to breathe. You imagine a fault line beneath your ribs. It bows gently when you laugh. It tenses when you grieve. You feel the plate of your spirit riding atop the molten pool of emotion. Sometimes the plates drift apart and you feel calm. Sometimes they grind together and you feel conflict. Both are natural motions of your inner earth. You become aware of gases rising in your thoughts, ideas, or emotions that bubble up, carrying subtle messages. Doubt, like carbon dioxide, gathers in hidden pockets. Excitement, like water vapor, seeks release in joyful breath. Anger, like sulfurous steam, warns you of injustice or hurt. Each gas tells you something about what stirs below. You place your hand on your heart and feel warmth. It is both comforting and insistent, a reminder of life's pressure, of the potential energy waiting to move. You recognize this pulse as the planet's pulse in miniature, a constant exchange of heat and pressure, of holding and releasing. You remember that volcanoes create new land when they erupt. Likewise, your own releases pave the way for growth. When you share a buried truth, you clear the ground for trust. When you allow tears to flow, you water the seeds of healing. When you let laughter rise, you light the spark of joy. You drift through your memory of past eruptions, moments when you broke through your walls. You recall the first time you spoke an unsaid word, felt the liberation of honesty, and watched relationships shift and renew. You recall the times you burst in anger and how the ash of regret settled afterward. You learn from both kinds of release. Your silence, too, is volcanic. It holds power. In silence, you gather your thoughts like crystals forming in cooling magma. You let ideas solidify into clear shapes before you share them. You let emotions settle, distilling your truth into its purest form. Silence and speech become balanced expressions of your inner fire. You sense connections outward as magma rises to shape countenance. Your emotions shape the world around you. A kind word warms another person's spirit. A compassionate gesture feeds the soil of community. Though your sphere is smaller than the Earth's, your inner volcano casts ripples that spread outward. You learn to read the language of your inner mountain. You note the bulge of excitement tightening your belly before a project begins. You notice the low rumble of sadness settling in your bones when loss arrives. You feel the sudden tremor of surprise when joy appears unannounced. Each sensation is part of a poem of feeling. You practice relief valves. You take deep breaths, exhaling fully to prevent pressure from building too high. You write in a journal, releasing your thoughts onto paper before they fracture your calm. You speak to a friend, letting the warmth flow gently rather than erupting. In crisis, each method is a channel for your inner energy. You recognize that growth happens during the quiet between eruptions. After you release tension, you rest. You let your spirit recover, like cooled lava forming rich stone. In those moments of calm, you discover new possibilities, flickering like tiny crystals in black rock, waiting for light to guide them. You acknowledge that not all eruptions are the same. Some are gentle steam vents of a sigh, small bubbles of laughter. Others are explosive sudden declarations, tears that flood your cheeks. Neither is better, both are part of your emotional cycle. You honor each in its time and season. You feel a strong desire to create. Volcanic eruptions forge new land. Your expressions forge new identity. You paint, you write, you speak, you sing. In each act, you channel your inner heat outward, shaping the world with your presence. You become both the volcano and the land born from it. You sense the mantle of your unconscious vast, unseen, forming slow currents of instinct and memory. From this depth, strange dreams rise like magma plumes in sleep. You record them gently, tracing their shapes in your mind, letting their meaning unfold with patient reflection. You realize that, like the earth, you hold both creation and destruction. You can build a loving space or break down barriers that no longer serve you. You can renew relationships or transform painful patterns. All choices come from the pressure and flow of your inner fire. You close your eyes and feel your breath become the ocean above the mantle. You float within your own tides of feeling. You sense how currents change with the pull of moonlight, your own rhythms shaped by lunar cycles of rest and activity. You honor the ebb and flow of energy. You feel gratitude for your inner volcano. Without it, you would lack the warmth to create, the passion to connect, and the resilience to endure. You love the way pressure shapes you, how waiting strengthens you, and how release liberates you. You whisper softly to yourself, acknowledging the giant beneath your skin. I see you. I honor your power. I welcome your wisdom. In that gentle conversation, you find peace. You rise and stand, hands over your heart. You feel light, even though you carry deep warmth. You carry your mountains and your valleys within a landscape, rich and varied, shaped by time, pressure, and release. You open your eyes and look around the room. You see ordinary objects become magical. A lamp glows like molten rock, a blanket feels like cooling lava, a pillow invites you to rest as the earth rests. You sense the world as an extension of your inner terrain. You carry this calm into your next moments. You move with deliberate care, honoring each step as a healing journey across your own geography. You let your inner volcano guide you gently. Build, wait, release, renew, and as you lie down to sleep, you let your final thought be the quiet promise that even in darkness, your inner fire continues to pulse, patient, powerful, ever-present. And as you rest with the glow of your inner volcano, you will learn how to listen to the mountain's breath, feeling every tremor and silent pulse. As you drift into the next journey, you arrive at the foot of a sleeping mountain just before dawn. The air is cool, and the first light of day brushes the peaks in soft pink. You stand still, letting the hush settle around you. Though the slopes look solid and unmoving, you know beneath the surface, the earth breathes in subtle rhythms, tiny movements that carry messages if you know how to listen. You walk on soft gravel toward a lab set of instruments, strain meters, infrasound arrays. Their cables nestle against rock-like veins. A pale glow from solar panels illuminates the sensors. You kneel beside a seismometer, its metal plate buried in the ground, its sensor poised to capture every whisper of motion. You place your palm gently on the instrument's casing. You feel a faint vibration. It's not the thud of your heartbeat, but something deeper, quiet, persistent pulse. You close your eyes and let your body synchronize. Breathing in time with the mountain's echo, you begin to understand its language. A seismograph trace scrolls slowly across paper or screen, showing lines that wave and spike. Each line is a syllable in the mountain's story. Minor tremors, softer than a footstep ripple, through the crust as fluids shift or tiny fractures adjust. You imagine them as gentle sighs, like the mountain inhaling, then exhaling over days, weeks, months. You rise and press your ear to a nearby outcrop. Stone against skin, you hear an almost inaudible resonance, low hum, stretched thin across time. You listen as though the rock were a drum, and each microquake its resonant note. You feel how what appears unmoving really flows, pulses, and breathes. The ground beneath you carries stories of ancient eruptions and recent adjustments. You think of how magma moves through chambers, how gas accumulates in cracks, how pressure builds and then eases. Each process sends waves outward, tracing arcs through stone until they reach your listening post. As the sun peaks over the horizon, you notice a faint tremor so small you almost doubt it. But the seism captures it, a brief spike, a quick pulse, then calm. You imagine magma shifting, crystals forming in the molten rock, changing its density. That transformation echoes upward as a whisper in the mountain's breath. You walk a few paces to a strain. Meter a metal rod anchored in rock, measuring minute changes in distance. Its readings rise by microns as the crust swells, then fall as it relaxes. You visualize the mountain's chest, inhaling heat and gas, then exhaling as fractures open. You feel connected to this living geometry. Every instrument hums with data, but you need no screen to sense the rhythms. You close your eyes again and stand barefoot on the cool earth. You breathe slowly, matching the mountain's tempo. You notice the wind begin to stir in the pines above you, carrying a faint scent of mineral and forest. A bird calls, a reminder that living creatures listen to. They feel tremors as vibrations in the ground, perhaps sensing storms of movement beneath. You wonder if they pause their song in tune with the mountain's breath. Just as you pause yours, you return to the seismograph and watch the needle trace a series of gentle arcs. The pattern repeats. Inhale, exhale, inhale. You recognize a cycle, subtle and measured. You see how small events clusters that sometimes signal deeper shifts. Hints of what may come if pressure rises enough. You move to an observation deck where a lookout stands with infrared cameras. You peer through the lens and see faint warmth radiating from fumaroles high on the slope. Steam drifts in thin streams. You feel that warmth nearby, a conscious exhale from the mountain's lungs. You sit down on a smooth basalt boulder and close your eyes once more. You allow the data, the warmth, the tremors to fill your awareness. You feel part of a continuum that extends from deep beneath your feet to far above in the sky, below the surface. Molten rock slowly moves, forming crystal suites and gas bubbles, altering density. Each change sends a ripple outward. You imagine those ripples as verses in a poem composed by Earth's inner fire. The poem unfolds, slowly, its meter measured in seconds of tremor and hours of stillness. You shift slightly and feel a new vibration, a long-period quake, a slow rhythm indicating cavity resonance. You consider how magma sloshes in chambers, like water in a tub, creating deep, sonorous notes. You listen with your whole being, letting your breath synchronize with each low rumble. You stand and walk a short trail that leads around a rocky amphitheater. Stones ring underfoot, solid echoes that contrast with the subtlest tremors beneath. You stop at the edge and press both hands against a broad rock face. You lean in, whole body absorbing the mountain's resonance. In that moment, you sense how every fold of rock, every ancient fault line, every lingering crystal speaks. You feel the mountains inhale as heat gathers, your own inhale as curiosity grows. You feel the exhale as temperatures ease, relief carried away in steam and soft tremor. Time slows. You lose count of breaths. You become the listener, wholly. present to the mountain's slow conversation. The sun climbs higher, warming the slopes and illuminating tiny shifting shadows. You feel the interplay of warmth and stone, of energy and form. You rise and turn toward the instruments once more, grateful for their presence. You realize they only record what you can feel with your heart. You need not read graphs to know that. Life beneath the crust continues in patterned grace. You take a final moment at the seismograph, placing a finger lightly on its casing. One last gentle pulse reaches you, a reminder that beneath apparent stillness, the mountain dreams of movement. Its breath is patient, persistent, eternal. You step back and look up at the summit, where clouds drift past and sunlight flirts with snowfields. The mountain holds its secrets close, sharing only whispers. You smile softly, honoring the quiet dialogue you've joined. You begin to walk away, each step echoing softly on stone, carrying the mountain's breath within your own. You leave behind the instruments, but you carry their message in your stillness, in the rhythm of your heart. And as you move toward the next journey where the ground will stir in bolder motions, you feel ready to listen again, to feel the moment when the earth shifts from breath to awakening. When the ground stirs abruptly, silence gives way to movement. Next, you feel the earth wake, its pulses growing stronger, and learn what it feels like when the quiet becomes motion. You are standing on the threshold between calm and motion. The morning sun has warmed the dewy grass beneath your feet, and a gentle breeze carries the promise of change. You have listened to the mountain's breath, felt its subtle rhythms. Now, you wait for the moment when stillness gives way to movement. You breathe slowly, aligning your heartbeat with the earth's heartbeat, ready to feel the ground awaken. The first sign is nearly imperceptibly faint tremor, so delicate you might miss it if you did not stand perfectly still. It ripples through your shoes, travels up your legs, and settles in your chest like a secret. You close your eyes and let your senses amplify every vibration. The hum of shifting rock, the whisper of gas finding a new path, the gentle crackle of crystals, rebounding in the cooling stone. Moments later, a deeper pulse emerges. It is rhythmic, measured as if a colossal heart is beating underground. You feel it in your palms as you press them against a nearby boulder. The rock vibrates back, alive with energy. A low, rolling rumble follows, rising in volume like distant thunder, but deeper, more resonant. It is the mountain stirring from its long slumber. You step forward, each footfall deliberate, cushioning the motion with awareness. The trail beneath you shifts. Small pebbles dance at your heels, soil trembles in tiny landslides down the slope. You watch the ground ripple outward in faint waves, like a pond disturbed by a pebble, except the pond is the mountain and the pebble, its own desire to move. Ahead, a thin plume of steam bursts from a fumarole, higher and brighter than before. It hisses and pulses, a living geyser of hot air and minerals. You feel its warmth on your face, a sudden exhale from the mountain's lungs. It is not fury, it is relief. The trapped gases have found an open channel and are escaping in celebration of release. You follow the steam's path upward, weaving between rocky outcrops that glow with fresh warmth. Some stones bear cracks newly formed, scarred veins through which heat bleeds into the open air. You place your hand on one, its surface is warm and ever so slightly flexible, as though the rock itself bends when offered a hand. Higher up the slope, you notice the ground tilts more steeply. You pause at the edge of a hardened lava flow, observing its smooth surface fractured by swells of internal pressure. Then, with a sudden hiss, molten rock begins to rise beneath the skin. A dark line appears earth and flesh, stretching, and then a thin ribbon of bright orange emerges, glowing like a slow pulse of blood. Lava is waking. You crouch and watch it advance. It moves not violently but deliberately, like honey released from a spoon. Its edge oozes forward, a molten lip that spreads outward, carving its path through ash and old rock. You feel a quiet exhilaration. This flow is an act of creation, not revenge. It reshapes the land, paves new ground, and offers a fresh canvas, upon which life will one day return. Behind the flow, the surface cools rapidly. Lava that was liquid yesterday is solid stone today. You witness the birth of new rock formations, rippled foeho rippling into ropes of stone, brittle shards crumbling into a shifting jumble of black gravel. Each texture tells a story of temperature and flow rate, of chemical composition and cooling time. You rise and step forward, mindful of heat radiating upward from the flow. You feel the ground's pulse through your boots, each step echoing the mountain's rhythm. The air smells of sulfur and iron-sharp notes in the symphony of waking earth. You inhale gently, letting the acrid scent remind you of deep processes at work, unseen beneath layers of stone and soil. As you ascend, the tremors grow stronger, not frightening, but insistent, like the steady beat of a drum calling you higher. You climb a narrow ridge where ground has fractured, revealing a bulge of fresh lava pushing upward. You lean close and see molten colors shifting beneath a thin crust, rivers of orange flowing through channels of dark red, a living tapestry of heat and stone. You think of magma deep below, the vast reservoir that feeds these flows. You imagine it gathering energy over centuries, warming rock, dissolving minerals, accumulating gas, forming crystals. You see its growth as a seed inside the mountain, pulsing until it reaches a threshold, then bursting forth in molten clarity. You step aside as a new vent opens a few paces away. A slender fountain of lava arcs skyward, glimmering in the morning light. Drops land nearby, sizzling as they hit cooler rock. You watch the droplets flow into tiny pools, each impact a note in a gentle percussion. It is a volcanic dance, choreographed by pressure, chemistry, gravity, and time. You continue upward, breathing steadily, carrying the mountain's warmth in your lungs. You observe how the flow splits around obstacles, boulders, hardened ridges, ancient tree stumps half buried in ash. Each diversion creates new channels, networks of molten rivers flowing in unison. You see paths converging, diverging, underground logic made visible at the flow's leading edge. You find a spot of solid ground and sit to watch. You feel the ground's vibration like a heartbeat, rising and falling in a slow, powerful cadence. You recall times when volcanoes felt sudden eruptions of smoke, ash, fireball blasts. But this awakening is patient. The ground shifts before it flows. The air warms before steam rises. The sound builds before the sight appears. It is slow, and that slowness speaks of deep time. You rest your hands on your knees and close your eyes. You let the sonar of tremors wash through you, matching each inhale to the mountain's swell, each exhale to its release. You become part of the cycle, pressure, rhythm, movement. You are both observer and participant in this grand awakening. Hours pass, though you hardly notice. The sun climbs higher, casting a golden glow on molten rivers and dark crust alike. You see new rock forming at the surface, tiny glass beads, spherules that cool in midair. Spatter cones, building around vents, fields of cinder growing like black dunes. Each feature is a signpost in the mountain's moment of becoming. You stand and walk along the flow's edge, tracing its path back toward the source vent. You see the conduit where magma reaches the surfacer glowing throat that pulses with fire. You place your palm against a rock half wrapped in cooled flow. It is warm, but not scorching cold enough to touch, but radiating the intensity of its birth. You press your ear against the same rock and listen. The tremors beneath are loud, now steady drumming as fresh magma churns below. You perceive a new rhythm, the mountain breathing faster, opening its chest, letting hot-blooded stone find freedom. You smile, hearing in that rhythm the echo of your own breath, deepened by connection. You walk farther uphill, following the source. Vents glow until you reach a summit crater. There, you peer into a cauldron of orange light. Molten rock churns like a slow ocean, waves cresting against rocky shores. Steam and gas rise in a continuous plume, arching into the sky. You feel the crater's heat on your face, a warm breeze that carries the mountain's voice. You reflect on the transformation, from silent rock to living fire, from pulsing tremors to flowing lava. You realize that awakening is not chaos, it is an unfolding, a slow reveal of the mountain's inner life. It is the mountain's way of saying, "Here I am, alive and shaping the world." You turn and look back down the slope. The flow spreads across miles of terrain, forging new land, filling valleys, damming streams. You see where life will one day return. Cooled ridges will host pioneer lichens. Soil will form in cracks. Plants will colonize edges. Animals will follow watercourses. Creation and destruction have danced together, and now the stage is set. For renewal, you inhale deeply, tasting the mix of minerals and heat. You feel gratitude for being a witness, for feeling the ground wake beneath you. You close your eyes again, letting the mountain's song resonate within your chest. You sense the flow of energy from deep within earth, through molten river, into cooling stone, into your awareness. You stand and whisper a farewell to the glowing vent. "Thank you for showing me your heart." The words feel small against the mountain's voice, yet you offer them with sincerity. You take a final look into the crater, whose molten dance continues without end. Then begin your descent on calm but forever changed ground. Each step downward feels lighter, guided by the mountain's slowed heartbeat. You walk among cooling ridges, past steaming vents, across fields of black glass, now solid and firm. The tremors fade as you move away from the epicenter, yet you carry their rhythm in your bones. You watch steam plumes drift into the evening sky, casting soft halos in fading light. You reach the base where grass once more softens the earth. The ground is still warm, but no longer trembling. The flow has fed the valley with new stone, altered the landscape's skeleton, rewritten the earth's map. You pause and lay your hand on a cooling rock, feeling its gentle warmth broaden into calm. You look up at the quiet summit, smoke drifting in lazy spirals. The mountain breathes steadily. Now, its awake moment complete. It has reshaped itself and the world around it, then settled into a new form. You understand that every awakening resets the mountain's cycles, gathering, resting, breathing, awakening again and again across millennia. You close your eyes one last time on this path of transformation. You hear the mountain's final whisper in the breeze, a promise that the earth never sleeps for long, but always returns to calm after release. You open your eyes and step into the twilight, your journey touching both fire and stone, anticipation and release. As the flow cools and the ground settles, ash drifts down like snow, recording the story in layers. Next, you watch the mountains. Memories settle in ash and stone, and learn how the earth writes its own history. You wake on a soft bed of ash as the first. Light of morning filters through a veil of lingering dust. The world around you is hushed, as if caught between heartbeat and breath. Each inhale carries the faint scent of sulfur and cooled stone. Each exhale stirs a gentle swirl of grey. You lie still, feeling the warmth beneath you, a gentle ember, pulsing in the earth's chest, echoing the yesterday's fierce release. Here, in this quiet aftermath, you realize that the mountain story is written not only in fire, but in the hushed language of settling ash dots slowly. You sit up and press your fingers into the fine layer beneath. It moves like velvet, cool, responsive to your touch. You imagine each grain drifting skyward moments ago, riding the eruption's winds, only to return now as a gentle blanket. The ash holds memory. In each tiny flake, you see the mountain's breath, condensed and captured, waiting to tell its tale in layers that will endure for centuries. You scoop a handful and let it sift through your fingers, watching it fall like the slow ticking of an ancient clock. You stand and stretch, legs aching from the night spent upon this unusual mattress. You brush ash from your hair and gaze at the land stretching before you. Where once a river of molten rock surged, there is now a mosaic of textures: black glass, fractured boulders, and silvery ponds of condensed steam. The ground still steams, in patches, as if the earth exhales in quiet spurts, reminding you that the fire within has not entirely cooled. This warmth seeps through the soles of your feet, a subtle reassurance that under every end lies the seed of a new beginning. Walking slowly, you follow a path carved by yesterday's flow. Each step feels sacred, as though walking on consecrated ground. You come upon a shallow depression where water has collected, tinted by minerals carried from below. You kneel and touch the surface, cool, almost like mirror glass, then let your palm stir the stillness into gentle ripples. Each wave reflects the morning sky, now softened by ash but brightening to promise a new day. You watch as the ripples fade, like echoes of the eruption dissolving into calm dot. Above the pond, a lonely tree stands, its bark dusted in pale grey. You approach it and trace the ridges in its trunk, feeling the grooves under your fingertips. This tree survived the heat and the ash. Its roots reach deep into cooled lava, where pockets of soil formed in cracks. You press your shoulder against the trunk and feel its steady heartbeat slow, indomitable, alive. In this silent communion, you realize that life endures not despite the mountain's fury, but because of it. Each eruption clears and fertilizes, creating opportunities for renewal. You rise and continue along the ridge, where the wind picks up ash and carries it across the valley like drifting snow. You close your eyes and let a fine mist of dust caress your cheeks. In this moment, you feel part of the landscape, neither separate nor merely an observer, but woven into the web of stone, steam, and sky. The ash is in your hair, on your eyelashes, settling into your clothing. You laugh softly, a sound that seems too bright for this grey world, and realize that joy can bloom even in the quiet aftermath of fire. Further on, you find a stretch of ground where hardened lava forms a field of black, ropey toho. Its surface is glassy and cool, but you know that not long ago it was white-hot and flowing. You step onto it carefully, marveling at the way the rock captures the memory of motion. Each ripple and fold marks the rhythm of molten currents beneath its skin, frozen in time but speaking volumes. You run your hand along a smooth ridge, feeling the silent song of lava now at rest. You climb a small rise to gain perspective. From here, the valley unfolds in gentle waves, dark ridges of cooled flows, dotted with green moss and hardy pioneer plants. You spot tiny emerald sprouts poking through ash-crusted soil, determined to claim this new land. You smile at their tenacity. Life's first responders, lichen moss, grass are already at work, transforming ash to soil, chaos to cradle. You remember that after every eruption, the ground is primed for renewal, like a canvas wiped clean for new art. As the sun climbs higher, the ash in the air begins to settle more rapidly, drifting like slow snowflakes to form fresh layers atop layers. You breathe deeply, tasting the fine particles on your tongue and sensing minerals that will nourish the valley for years to come. The land around you is both fragile and resilient, a paradox, held in balance by time's gentle hand. You think of how these layers will build up, preserving the story of this moment for future generations. A geological diary etched in fine grey, you wander down toward an old riverbed, now plugged by hardened lava. Water still oozes through fractures, collecting in small pools that glisten in sunlight. You kneel beside one and cup your hands, drawing in mineral-rich droplets that taste of earth and memory. You imagine how this water will carve new channels over time, shaping the valley's future course. Even in stillness, the land remembers how to move nearby. A grove of young birches and willows sways in the breeze, their roots anchored in ash that has already begun to turn soft with organic matter. You step among them, touching leaves and slender trunks, feeling the gentle vibration of sap rising. These trees are pioneers too, forging life in the aftermath of fire. You lean your head against a willow trunk and close your eyes, letting its whisper-thin leaves lull you into reflection. The cycle of destruction and creation moves through roots and branches. You rise again and follow a winding trail back toward a cluster of steaming vents. The air is thick with mist and the hiss of hot air meeting cool morning. You lean over one vent and inhale the warm steam, feeling it wash over your cheeks like a healing balm. You taste a trace of sulfur, a reminder of the mountain's inner alchemy. Bubbles of hot water sputter at the vent's edge, carrying dissolved minerals upward. You ponder how these chemicals will alter soils, feed microbes, and shape ecosystems in the seasons ahead. Moving on, you find a vantage point atop a cooled lava dome. From here, you see the entire valley, its soft green invasion, its dark scars of stone, its misty veil of ash suspended in air. The mountain's summit towers beyond, a silent sentry cloaked in lingering dust. You feel a mixture of awe and tenderness. You have witnessed the mountain's fury, and now you witness its gentle return to rest. In this, you see a metaphor for all things, how extremes give way to equilibrium. You sit at the dome's edge, legs dangling over cooled, glassy rock. You place your palms on the surface and feel warmth still radiating. You close your eyes and breathe in time with that residual heat, steady, comforting, profound. You recall moments of your own life when intensity gave way to calm, when storms within settled into quiet resolve. You sense a kinship with the mountain, both shaped by cycles of upheaval and healing. As the afternoon light softens, you begin to feel drowsy. You lie back on the glassy rock, letting its gentle warmth cradle you. The ash dust settles around you, forming a soft pillow beneath your head. You gaze at drifting clouds tinted by residual ash, their edges blurred into gentle pastels. The air cools slightly, and you pull a blanket of moss from a nearby boulder to cover your legs. You feel cocooned in nature's lullaby. Your eyes grow heavy, and you allow your thoughts to drift. You remember the eruption's roar, the molten rivers, carving new paths, the sky darkened by ash, and you smile at how quickly the land healed. You think of the valley's tiny first steps toward green, and you marvel at life's persistence. You hold gratitude for the land's generosity, for allowing you to witness both its fire and its mercy. You drift toward sleep, the world around, you singing a chorus of crickets, rustling leaves, and distant steam hisses. Your breath slows to match the mountain's deep rhythm. You feel weightless, yet grounded by the earth's steady pulse. In sleep's embrace, you dream of ash settling into soil, of roots pushing through stone, of seeds waiting for rain. You dream of future seasons when this valley will flourish more fully, and you will return to see it green and vibrant. Somewhere deep within the mountain, the last pockets of molten rock shift and settle. Pressure eases and reforms in silent chambers. The mountain exhales its final ember of the day's heat, then settles back into patient rest. It dreams now of the long sleep of tomorrow, when the world will wake again to its gentle warmth, to its layers of memory, to its cycle of fire and renewal. And as you surrender fully to dreams, you hold one soft question in your heart. What will the earth dream next?